Hello. Negotiating the sale of a home requires a lot of patience and organization, and sometimes compromise. There are 5 primary negotiating points in a real estate contract. Let's take a look at each of these areas where you can expect some back and forth before finally coming to agreement. Price. How much you offer beneath a seller's asking price can depend entirely on the condition of the house and comparable sales. In a buyer's market, it can be reasonable to offer as much as 20% under the asking price if the home requires extensive repairs, such as replacing the roof, or if there are foundation issues. Offers of 5 to 19% under price are also acceptable, depending on the need for remodeling or upgraded appliances. Your greatest asset here will be comparable homes in the area sold for a similar price and how their conditions and features compare to the home in question. Comps alone can sometimes encourage a seller to reconsider their original asking price. Negotiating a home purchase price can be intimidating, especially for first-time home buyers. Make sure you get a pre-approval before you start shopping for a home. You should also choose an agent before you start to compare properties. Always ask your agent to communicate with sellers and submit offers. Be sure to order an inspection once you find a home you like. You can ask your seller to give you a discount, make repairs on the property before the sale, or help you with closing costs. Don't be afraid to walk away and keep shopping if you can't reach an agreement with a seller. Ready to begin your house hunt? Get it pre-approved today and put your newfound negotiating knowledge to the test. The next area for negotiating is terms such as earnest money, down payment, and financing or cash. Earnest money, or good faith deposit, is a sum of money you put down to demonstrate your seriousness about buying a home. In most cases, earnest money acts as a deposit on the property you're looking to buy. You deliver the amount when signing the purchase agreement or the sales contract. The down payment. When you buy a home, one of the biggest upfront expenses is the down payment. Not to be confused with closing costs, the down payment is the portion of the purchase price that you pay upfront at closing. Generally, if you put less money down on a home at closing, you'll pay more in fees and interest over the loan's lifetime, and vice versa. The down payment you make on your home impacts what kind of mortgage you qualify for, how much money a lender will give you, and the loan's terms and conditions. But the size of your down payment also impacts your lifestyle and long-term financial planning goals, as it determines your monthly mortgage payments and how much money you'll have for other expenses. If you've only ever rented, keep in mind that your monthly expenses as an owner include more than just the mortgage. There are also property taxes, maintenance, insurance, and potential repairs. A larger down payment will give you a lower loan-to-value ratio, or LTV. This key measure makes you less risky to lenders, may qualify you for lower interest rates, and may help you avoid fees such as private mortgage insurance. A larger down payment may make you more competitive as a buyer because you'll be seen as more reliable, less prone to haggling, or needing to ask for sellers to pay closing costs. The amount you designate as a down payment helps a lender determine how much money to lend you and which type of mortgage is best for your needs. But how much is just the right amount for a down payment? Paying too little will cost you in interest and fees over time. Too much could deplete your savings or negatively affect your long-term financial health. Plus, you still need to factor in closing costs, moving expenses, and other monthly bills. Ultimately, the size of your down payment depends on you, your savings, income, and budget for a new home. Another area of negotiating is dates, closing, and possession. When a home buyer picks a house to purchase, the transaction process can be lengthy and somewhat complicated. The buyer possession date, in particular, is often a point of confusion. Some of this has to do with when the seller is vacating, but not always. It's frequently one of the biggest headaches in many real estate transactions, often rearing its head midway through the process when needs or circumstances might change. Sometimes the date of buyer possession is never clearly established in the first place. In that case, the buyer and seller may develop contradictory expectations of when possession will change hands. Market forces can affect the way the parties handle possession dates as well. For instance, in sellers' markets, buyers will often give sellers several days to move. This is to gain an edge in the event the seller receives multiple offers. In buyers' markets, buyers will generally insist upon occupancy at closing and have been known to refuse to close if the property isn't going to be vacant at closing. In neutral markets, possession typically changes hands upon closing. Early buyer possession. As a general rule, real estate experts frown upon giving buyers early possession because too many things can go wrong at the last minute. Eviction is neither easy nor inexpensive. For that reason, professionals advise that sellers and buyers execute some type of rental agreement rather than transferring possession before the sale is complete. Seller rent back, retain possession. Buyers want sellers to pay a sum equal to their mortgage payment, plus insurance and taxes. That amount is often a lot more than the seller's original mortgage payment, though, and they may not be willing to pay it. Whatever amount is agreed upon, put it in writing and execute a rental agreement to protect all parties. The amount is negotiable, and there is no real reason it needs to be based on the buyer's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, PITI. An argument can be made that the rental amount should be based on the average rental amounts for the area. Be sure not to agree to a rent-back lease agreement of longer than 60 days. If you do, your lender may consider the home an investment property and raise your interest rate. Now let's talk about inclusions and exclusions. When you buy a home, items you see during the showing are either included with the property, inclusions, or excluded from the sale, exclusions. In real estate, inclusions refer to a concept known as fixtures. As a rule of thumb, items that are built into or affixed to the home with the intention that they be permanent are fixtures. Items that are not attached to the house are considered personal property and therefore are exclusions. The seller should take them when they leave as a matter of course. It can get a bit tricky though. A play set in the backyard can be either an exclusion or an inclusion depending on whether it simply sits on top of the ground or if the legs are anchored into the ground. A wall-mounted plasma television is not an inclusion, but the bracketed wall mount it hangs on is. If you have one of those large metal racks that hang overhead to store your pots and pans, it is an inclusion. If you want to take it with you when you go, you have to declare that in the contract. The pans themselves, though, are exclusions. Remember, even though a home on the MLS may advertise items as inclusions, I wouldn't count on it unless it's spelled out clearly in the contract. Before you accept an offer, make sure you walk through your home and identify everything you would consider to be inclusions so that you can list them in the contract. And the last negotiating piece, contingencies like loans, inspections, attorney approval, etc. Real estate contingencies in a home purchase contract are walkaway clauses that let you back out of the deal and get your earnest money back if certain conditions aren't met. Think of a contingency as an if-then proposal. For example, if I'm able to sell my current home, then I'll buy yours. Knowing common contingencies prepares you to make a competitive home buying offer that protects your interests and entices sellers. Types of real estate contingencies. Here are the most common types of contingencies included in home purchase agreements. Inspection contingency. A home inspection contingency lets you negotiate the sales price, ask for repairs, or walk away from the sale based on the inspection results. Your contract may stipulate that repairs must be made if problems are uncovered, but that can lead to closing delays while the fixes are scheduled and approved. You may prefer to renegotiate the sales price if significant improvements are needed. In hot markets, buyers may feel pressure to forego home inspections altogether to win bidding wars. But skipping a home inspection is risky, and there are other ways to strengthen an offer, such as making a larger down payment. Mortgage contingency. A mortgage contingency gives you an out if if you don't qualify for a home loan. Unless you're buying a home with cash, a mortgage contingency is necessary even if you're pre-approved for a mortgage. Pre-approval is important, but it's not an absolute guarantee. After a home is under contract, your loan still must go through a final stage of underwriting. Appraisal contingency. When a home appraises for less than the offer amount, your financing may fall through, or you may have to put more money down to buy the property. A property appraisal contingency lets you back out if the appraisal comes in low. Home sale contingency. Under a home sale contingency, your offer is subject to the successful sale of your current house. The contingency is most often based on a specific time period, generally 30 to 60 days, after which your contract is forfeited. In a seller's market, including this contingency puts your offer at a serious disadvantage because sellers have so many offers from which to choose. All other things being equal, a seller is more likely to select an offer without this stipulation. Other contingencies. Other standard contingencies can include such things as a termite certification and the definition of a reasonable time period to close the sale. But there may be an additional condition that you want to include in an agreement. While it's important to protect your own interest, generally, the more contingencies in your offer, the less enthusiastic the seller may be to deal with you, especially when there are far more buyers than homes for sale. You'll have a better shot at dictating terms through contingencies in a buyer's market. Sellers are more likely to negotiate when there's a glut of homes for sale. Home sale contingency deadlines. Keep track of contingency deadlines so that nothing sneaks up on you, and so you won't miss an important date to enforce a condition that the seller must meet. Having a calendar with all deadlines listed, perhaps even with pre-deadline notices a few days ahead, will help you stay on top of critical contingencies. Throughout this process, you'll want your agent to guide you. In more complicated cases, you may even want the advice of a real estate attorney. It's easy to get tripped up by legal jargon, and sometimes what's not in writing does the most damage. So remember, there are 5 primary areas of negotiations in a real estate contract. My job as a realtor is to keep the conversation going and coming to some sort of compromise that benefits both parties as much as possible. So what part of the real estate contract have you had to negotiate? Please put in the comments below. We'd all like to learn from you. As always, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much and have an awesome day.